Welcome to Imagine Love. I'm so happy that you're back watching the video with me. I'm gonna give you 3 ways that parents can stay on the same page. That's easier said than done, but here are 3 tips to help you along the way. Watch, subscribe, like, share. We're getting into it right now. Now, the first way is you have to talk beforehand about the problems that may arise. Now let's keep it real. These problems aren't new. You've probably gone through the problems that you're having before, and we just need to talk about how to get through these, how you can plan so that your spouse and you are on the same page, co-parenting together under one wonderful umbrella. So I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say your daughter comes and asks you, hey, can I please stay at my friend's house? You as let's say dad, say, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Then she goes and walks to her mother and she asks the mother, hey, can I please stay at my friend's house? Mom says, hey, well, I don't see why not, go ahead. Red flags, warning signs, all that's gonna happen. That can cause an instant fight between you and your wife. Your wife just said one thing, you just said another. How do we get over this? Well, in this example, like I said, we need to talk beforehand about the problems that may arise. So we need to be talking about how, hey, our daughter or our son, they may come to us and ask one or the other parent something. And so by rule of thumb, you need to be able to communicate with your spouse and say, hey, when a child comes and asks you something, we need to either double check with the child, asking them, have you already asked your other parent? Have you already asked your father? Have you already asked your mother? Or before you give an answer to the child, you need to go and talk to your spouse and talk and say, hey, did our daughter come and ask you to go and spend the night somewhere, right? Or your wife needs to ask you, hey, babe, did our daughter come and ask you if she could go and spend the night somewhere? So that's the first thing, is just communication. You have to be on the same page. And part of your talking with your spouse is being in an agreement of those answers already being able to be made. Do you allow your children to spend the night at other people's houses? Do you allow your children to go out and do things at a certain time? Or do they have to be back by a certain time? All these things can be pre-planned, predetermined, so you can know, hey, when this situation comes up, this is how we respond as a unit. So now it isn't the husband against the wife and the child trying to go to one parent that's going to be a little more lenient, or one parent that's going to let them get away with a little something. Now it can be very cut and dry, easy to know, hey, these are the answers that we give in a certain situation. So once you and your spouse are again under that one umbrella of understanding, knowing how you're going to respond, then you can eliminate a lot of problems, a lot of disagreements, and a lot of fights that come out of a child kind of using one parent against another to get what they want. Now, I'm gonna say something that some people can't understand, right? But in a successful marriage, it has to first be the wife and the husband. You have to be a complete unit first, then it's the children. Now, I'm not saying that you don't love your children unconditionally. Of course you love your children unconditionally, right? You would live for your children, you would die for your children. You would do anything you could to support for your children and to make them happy, to keep them on this world. But we have to remember that to be successful parents, to teach children successfully, and to raise them successfully, first, your wife and you, or your husband and you both have to be a cohesive unit under one umbrella, understanding that your relationship has to be the strongest. Your relationship has to come first. And then once your relationship is healthy, then you can be wonderful parents and you can give a wonderful future and relationship to your children. Also, side note, your children are gonna grow up, they're going to leave the nest. And that relationship between husband and wife is going to be the thing that stays in the house forever. And so remember that has to be solid. Now we're gonna move on to number 2. The second tip is that you and your spouse have to agree on the family values that you will teach and uphold in your household. That comes to school, religion, sports, expectations, When you and your spouse have a clear understanding of the values in your household, then you can communicate those expectations clearly to your children. For example, your son comes to you and he asks, "Hey, can I have a snack before dinner?" Mom says no, because she's preparing dinner. Your son goes to dad, and dad says, "Oh yeah, go ahead and get a snack." So now dinner came, and your son, of course, isn't very hungry because he just ate that nice hearty snack. Now your wife feels disrespected. She just spent time making the meal, or vice versa. The husband feels disrespected. He just got off the grill making a meal, and now the children aren't ready to eat because they've been snacking throughout the whole time that the meal has been made. Now, I know that's an easy situation, but we have to know expectations. So again, communicating the expectations with each other as a unit, as husband and wife, knowing that, hey, when we're cooking dinner, we know that we're gonna make the kids wait for dinner to eat. We're gonna have them wait so that we know that we can have a meal together, and that our money that we spend on this meal, our time, our effort that we spend on this meal, making a healthy, nutritious meal, isn't going to go to waste. And instead, it will be consumed by the family, and we can have family time. Now, that's just a small example, but these are things that go into other values that you may have. Again, whether they're religious values, social values, political values, however it may be, these need to be talked about between your spouse and yourself, so that you guys know how to proceed when it comes to situations with your children, because they're going to come up and they're going to continue to come up. But you can avoid, again, the big fight. You can avoid the big argument. You can avoid the big disagreement if you already have a cohesive unit of understanding, knowing the values, the expectations, and the things that you agree on beforehand. Same thing happens with sports. A lot of times, some parents will really want their children to be engaged in sports or extracurricular activities, and sometimes the children just don't want to go to practice. They don't want to participate how they should. And is that a value system for you, where you say, hey, if you start something, we expect you to finish it? If you give a commitment to something, we expect you to hold on to that commitment as long as you're not being abused, or as long as your rights aren't being violated. Then you need to respect that commitment, show up, show out, and try your hardest and give your best to that commitment that you made. That can really establish character, that can establish long-term sacrifice that you make for other things in life that are going to get you to places that you want to be. And sports aren't the only example, whether it's chess club or debate club, or maybe it's some type of obligation that they've made with themselves to do something for someone else. And so teaching your kids at a young age the values that you have in your home, and helping them to arise to those expectations, to accept the challenge, and then they can continue to be wonderful young children that grow into wonderful young adults that eventually will grow into the adults that you want to see, with a value system that not only you value, but that you've passed on and they've became to nurture or to braid those values into something even bigger, to be even better than what you could imagine. And of course, that's our goal as parents. We want our children to be better. We want our children to be happy. We want our children to be successful in their own rights. Remember to like this video. Remember to subscribe and share it to other parents. Share it to other friends. We are here as a village together to learn. I thank you for watching Imagine Love. Now, I'm going to talk about number 3, parenting styles. And so how you can both use your strengths, and you can make sure to mitigate the weaknesses that you have. So again, you can raise strong, valued children. Now, I'm not talking about using a good cop, bad cop scenario or things like that. I'm talking about how to help each other win in certain situations so the whole family can win. Now, for example, let's say that one of the parents isn't what you say a very strong-natured person, meaning that they like to give in a lot of times. If a child is to whine, or if a child is to really kind of pull out that pouty face, or maybe even do a little bit of manipulation, right? Maybe one parent isn't as good as just saying no, right? So that's where we need that other parent to step in and to be that force that's able to say no. And how do you do that without having one parent always be the authoritarian, or one parent kind of always being the bad guy or the bad cop? Well, the parent that isn't that good at saying no needs to say, you know what, honey, we're going to go and talk to your father. And then as a complete unit, we will make that decision. Or if the father, if he gives in all the time, the daughter always comes up and she says, hey, can I do this? And the father doesn't like to say no. He can easily just ask for help and say, hey, you know what, babe? We're going to go and ask your mother together to make this decision as a unit. And that way, it isn't just one person being what we want to say, the bad guy or the bad cop. Instead, it's a family decision where both parents come together and you both discuss these things using your values and using the preconceived and predetermined answers and the things that you know that you're willing to do or to not do when it comes to the things that your children want to do or what you don't want them to do. And so if you're coming together, then you can use each other's strengths and you can mitigate each other's weaknesses. Again, you have to make for sure that you're preparing for these situations. And so when you do come together, you're able to say, hey, babe, you know, I really think that the way that you express your concern for our child going out past 12 o'clock a.m. is very valid, because I feel the same way. I also worry about bad things that can happen at that time of night, or bad things that can happen in that certain neighborhood. Or I'm really concerned about things that can happen if you're at this certain place or this certain location. And so that way you can have that support of the person that's really good at saying no, but at the same time, you're not constantly putting them out there, throwing them to the wolves, if you say, by always making one person be the bad guy, or always making one person be the no authoritarian. Because that can really damage a relationship between a child and a parent if it feels like one parent is always telling them no, or one parent is always holding them back in some way. And so again, being that cohesive unit, talking beforehand, understanding your values, and then using each other's strengths and mitigating the weaknesses can do great things to help you and your spouse as parents stay on the same page. Now, if you like the content here, please subscribe, please share, tell other parents about this. We want to see your comments. I want you to tell me how you and your spouse stay on the same page. What are some tips that you use? Again, this takes a village. I don't know all, I don't see all, but what I do know when I do talk to parents, when I do conferences around the country, this is one of the questions I get a lot. How do we stay on the same page? And I think that these 3 tips that we talked about can help you. Now, I want to remind you, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you being a part of our community. Now, everybody, think of a world and imagine love in it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Can't wait till next time. Watch our next video. We will be back. Peace. Imagine Love. It's not just a channel, it's a lifestyle. It's a way that you can connect with other people, especially your family. So if there's one person, if there's one group of people, if there's one place where you want to make for sure that you imagine love, it's in your own household with the people that you love the most and the people that care for you the most. So whatever you're doing, however you're doing it, do it while imagining love. Thank you. If you enjoyed that video, I want you to please watch our next video that's coming out, how to be more involved as a parent. We're gonna give you 3 tips to be more involved so that you can be a more active parent in your children's lives. Thank you for watching Imagine Love.